the Smashburger Yellow Leaders jersey on the back of Brent Bookwalter. Brent, getting things started here today. Tailwind coming off of Fremont Pass. Seemed like speeds were pretty high. Take us through the final climb. Was it a tempo climb? You know, and then obviously there was a regroup there with Lachlan and Laurent Didier, who we'll hear from shortly here when he comes in. But you know, take us through that last climb and then descent and the tactics really over the last.
A little bit of drama with the pacemaking, to be honest. We had a real fast tailwind through Leadville, and at one point we had a time check that showed a minute 30. So then right away we told the boys back off, give them some time, kind of chilled out, and then literally 5-10 minutes later we saw 4.5 minutes. So that was a little frustrating because the guys did such a great job to keep the break in check. And then I think the information was just inaccurate. But we got back down to business, turned right into the lower slope of Independence, and it was really, really strong headwind. And then Keel gave us a little help with some of his boys. They did a great job bringing up the pace, keeping that break in check to make sure Dion didn't slip away with too much time to take the jersey. And then, like usually up Independence, we take that left-hand turn, maybe 7K from the top, and that's when the pace really ratchets up, and that's when we kind of let Rowan loose, and he just pretty much did his thing to the top.
Laurent, explain the climb. You know, you're a very good descender as well, but talk about the climb up Independence, and you were a stage winner last year in Breckenridge. So give us some insight to the tactics you had for today.
Well, from the start on, I want to be in the break, and I try 1 kilometer before the first GPM, and in the end it succeeds. And then I was not so happy with the group because we had 2 guys in the GC who were at 1:30, and I focused really on the last kilometer of Independent, and I attack like this left-hand corner with a little backwind because I knew the peloton come quite fast in the back, so my only chance was to attack from far.
How much time do you think you needed from the top of the climb into the finish?
This morning I thought about 1 minute 30, but I don't know what time I really had now on the top.
I can find out. I thought it was just...
But alone, even if I go 70k an hour after in the group, you go more than 80, more or less 85.
So yeah, probably 90 seconds at least then at that point. Keel, can you take us through the last 3 or 4 kilometers? Talking to Ruben Zapunki, he and Logan Owen looked like they had a really good line. He said he just slipped a little off, out of that corner, lost 3 or 4 places. So give us, where you were in the sprint, and obviously knowing that run-in from last year as well. Give us your version.
No, I just blacked out. What are we doing here? Yeah, it was. We knew it was gonna be hectic. We were lucky that kind of BMC's tactics were aligned with ours at that moment to try and keep everything together. I had Johnny, Yanni, and Marco all with me to help kind of sew it back together. So a huge amount of teamwork happened in those last few K. And when we hit those last 2 corners to go, it's a really fast run in. I know the town well, and Marco came on the right-hand side, kind of as everyone was lining up for those corners, and he took me like twice as fast through the first corner as everybody else. And then when we swung left, I took it pretty hot, but Logan took the inside and just jumped straight away, which was a great move on his part. And I had to decide at that point whether I was going to leave Marco's wheel or follow him, and he had so much speed that I jumped off Marco's wheel and went after Logan. Sometimes that kind of effort can cost you the sprint, but at altitude, everybody was really tired from the climb, so as soon as I got to his wheel, I just kept going, and really, really pleased with the win, especially after the work that all my teammates did.
Questions?
Brent, I talked with Jackson after the race, and he said there was a little bit of negative racing. Is that what you kind of expect when you've come out and been so dominant so far this week?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it negative necessarily. I mean, our team's done an amazing job the first two stages. I mean, two stage wins in 2 days, and stacking the podium, leading the GC, second overall in GC. So we didn't expect anyone to, we didn't expect the whole peloton to line up with us and just fall into our hands. But I think we've shown we're a strong team and we're capable of still riding and defending. And our young guys they're learning every day and they're getting smarter every day, and they're not getting any weaker every day, which means they're really getting stronger in spite of this race. So that's really inspiring to see for us, and we're firing on all cylinders and looking forward to these the second half of the race here.
The climb, I understand you were in a bit of difficulty and had some help from some pals.
Yeah, that would be putting it mildly. I was in good shape while we were in the headwind on the climb, but after it kind of kicked to the right and the tailwind started, Rohan's incredibly strong, and his pace was just a little bit too much for me. And rather than kind of going too hard or too deep to try and make it and then blow up and not have anything left to show for it, I just had to do my own pace. But I had Yanni with me. We had Johnny in the front, and then Marco was coming from behind, so that worked out really well. And I think with about 1.5 K to go, Marco and Yanni were there both with me, just protect me from the wind. And we did our pace, and as soon as we were over the top, then it was a full gas chase down the descent, and we all pitched in. Fortunately, I know the descent really well, so it made it easier to take some of those corners with some risks. And but huge amount of teamwork to bring me back, and I trusted those guys to do it, and they were willing to sacrifice their race to come back and get me, so that was awesome. Once we were back in the group, we knew it was a pretty good situation because we had numbers, and everyone was tired from the climb, so the attacks aren't quite as brutal. Thanks so much.
Kiel, when Rohan takes the front and you get popped off the back, I mean, at that point, were you expecting to see him again? Were you thinking you did have a realistic chance of catching back on, or did you think your number had been punched and your day was done?
No, we started the day with that plan. We knew there was a chance that I was going to be in difficulty towards the top, and when we rounded that last bend with, I don't know, maybe 800-900 meters to go, we could still see Rohan and Brent, and so at that point I thought we had a very good shot at it. It was just the only situation, I think, where we wouldn't have if there was still guys significantly off the front where that whole group is committed to chasing. If there's any dissension amongst the front group, then it was not going to be a problem.
Brent, you've had 7 or 8 years now where you've helped guys win Grand Tours and been a guy just has been a team rider. So now you have 2 days where it's a whole different role. What's the perspective from that now after a couple of days?
I'd say just a huge amount of gratitude and enjoyment, and it's just a realization of a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice for others, and it feels great. That's what, when I'm out training, I don't think about just riding in the wind for guys and lining them up for victories. I think about winning myself and leading races myself, and it doesn't happen very often. I don't find myself in a race lead very often, but now that I'm here, I'm really enjoying it, and to be honest, it feels great to be doing it in my home country. I think this is the first race I've led, in the USA. So it's that makes it all the more special when there's people smiling with you and people that you can relate to.
Lauren, I have a question for you. The stage races in Europe tend to have much longer stages. These North American races in Utah and Colorado have been experimenting with relatively shorter stages. How does that change the dynamic of the race? How does that change just the ebb and flow of a typical race? Does it change?
Of course it changed. I mean, more for the break already, it's not that long, 160, then tomorrow 200. And the best example is also in Dauphiné and the Tour. The short stages is always the most action. And I think it's more or less everywhere. In the mind of the riders already, they know when it's short, it's going to be more intense, and it's more spectacle in the end. Because if you have a break, the peloton control 3-4 riders, it's quite boring also for the spectators, I think.
Laurent, when you did jump, were you hoping to take more people with you, and were you surprised with who you did take?
Yeah, actually I thought about, I don't know his name now, 91, that he would join me, but I don't know if he was not good enough or he didn't want. But for sure it would be easier with two to maybe have a bigger chance to the line.
Talking about Dion Smith of the Henkepi team.
Brent, the team obviously controlled really well today, brought both you and Rowan into the finish with the lead group. You didn't lose any time. Does that give you a lot of confidence going into tomorrow's stage?
Yeah, every day that we can maintain this the GC lead, but not only the lead, to have two guys up there in the top 2 or 3, that's a successful day. So yeah, we're inspired by that, and we're having a lot of fun. We're excited. Like I said, the young guys that we have with us are learning. Taylor and Pete are like breaking through new barriers every day, getting stronger every day with their comebacks from their injuries, and we have a great team. So I'd say confidence, yes.
Keel, was this win even more special after the close call on Monday?
Yeah, and actually, before I say that too, kind of going back to what you were saying about Brent, having the opportunity to lead here, like I would be remiss if I didn't say how deserved a leader Brent is. It's really awesome to see, and I think there's a lot of people in the peloton that are super happy for him. So it's rad, and it's one of the cool things about being in a home race. But going back to the first day, just after the way the team rode for me, it's always hard to not win. We were definitely happy with the podium, and Taylor and Brent got the better of me that day, and all's fair in love and war. But to repay the guys with a win is always special. So very happy we could do it today, and again the team showed immense faith in me, and so I'm really glad I could deliver on their behalf. And here in Aspen is already kind of a special place for me from last year, so it's awesome to do it in this town again.
Any final questions? I do think we've hit a all-time caloric intake for a post-race press conference. I don't think I've seen this much food. So the climb must have burned a few calories, I think, going up Independence. All right, thanks, guys.
For the feet, and we came too fast, and nobody catch the back.
That's true. All right, thank you, guys, for your time.